there, avid listeners. Thanks again for tuning into Sin's Workshop. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. Alright, so today we're going to be talking about These Hollow Vows by Lexi Ryan. I have to say I really did enjoy this book. So I think we're all familiar now that fairies or fae are on the rise in literature right now. We're seeing definitely a nice trend, or at least I'm seeing the trend in literature right now, with fae kind of being really highlighted, especially amongst young adult literature. I think we noticed this trend when Twilight first came out. We saw a really nice trend of vampire-centric literature in media and television. So I think now it's safe to say we're seeing this trend rise with fae, and I think it's really interesting. The challenge, though, for authors is, and I think this was the same challenge that went into, vampires, werewolves, all that stuff. I think the challenge here for authors is they have to make their stuff unique. And I think Ryan is successful at that. She does have her Seelie courts and her unseelie courts, and in a way they are both very unique. You have the Seelie court, which is the court of the sun, and then the unseelie court, which is the court of the moon. I think it's really interesting because that's something new that I haven't seen before. Yes, we've seen Seelie and unseelie courts brought to life in literature. You've got the Wild Hunt with the unseelie court, and the unseelie court in folklore and mythology has characteristically been the more malevolent of the two fae groups, whereas the Seelie court, while still dangerous, are more benevolent. But I think that's I think people misconstrue their tenacity and their ability to find loopholes for benevolence. But whereas the unseelie really don't hide their cruelty, they are very malevolent. So we are seeing some of that in this literature, in this story. But what I think is interesting is Bree is a human, and she has to get into the fae court to save her sister. That means making a deal with the unseelie king, who is pretty horrible, to infiltrate the Seelie court and steal back the artifacts, right? So it's very interesting to see that at play, because what she's coming to realize is it's not one is kinder than the other. I think Bree is realizing that just like with humans, you're going to have good fairies and bad fairies. It doesn't matter what court they're part of. Their court just highlights their prejudices. You see some dangerous fae in the Seelie court, and let me say, the Seelie queen is not, in my opinion, benevolent in the few scenes that we do see her in. She seems very closed off, very cruel, very harsh. Whereas you're seeing some characters from the unseelie court, and they're nothing if not compassionate and empathetic, and they're fighters. They're freedom fighters. And then there's also this new element at play. You have the wild fae. And I think that that's really interesting, because that's not something I've seen when it comes to the Seelie and unseelie courts. You're either one or the other. There is no additional kingdom of the wild fae, not in the folklore that I'm familiar with in any case. So to see the wild fae have a minor role in the story, it is very minor. I'm sure they're going to take a more prominent role in the sequel, but I did think that was something that was interesting. It added to the plot, it added to the world, and I really do like the mythology of these mystical artifacts that Bree has to find. I like the world building. I think right from the beginning, as well, Ryan is really good with her world building. In one single scene with very few sentences, you already get a sense of the unfairness and cruelty of this world. I mean, Bree is breaking into a loan shark. I'm just going to call him a loan shark because that's what he is. A loan shark's house in order to pay the rent for her and her sister. And mind you, they do have day jobs as well, but they're not making enough to cover it because of their own loans. So, interest adds up. So, right from the beginning, you're kind of given a really strong sense of this world. It's very bleak, but it is powerful, and it does ground you in the setting. It does ground you in the plot, and it launches you into the Fae world, which is kind of the same. You are seeing this unfairness. Everyone wants to win the Seelie Kings, the Seelie Princes hand in marriage because, they want to get out of their own tough circumstances. Of course, who doesn't want to be a fairy princess? Everyone except Bree, apparently. So I really did enjoy her world building. You really are grounded in this universe, and you really get a strong sense of who Bree is as well as a character. She's clever, she's smart, she's racked with so much guilt. And I'll say this, it is one of my pet peeves when characters tend to ruminate a lot on everything wrong that they're doing. But given the situation that Bree is in, it makes sense because she acknowledges the fact that she's kind of being a hypocrite. And she wants nothing more than to be honest with Sebastian. But if she's honest with Sebastian, it could cost her sister's life. So she's walking a very fine line. And she's trying so hard to not live in this world of secrets. Because she doesn't want to be in this world of secrets. She hates it. So really just put her in a tough spot. But you're really getting to know her as a character. And it also doesn't bog down the story or the narrative. Because again, you're given a sense of who she is as a character. As well as her relationship. And how her relationship with these other characters, Finn and Sebastian, are growing and evolving. I will say this. I know there is a hint of a love triangle in this story. There is a little bit of a love triangle. It doesn't come to fruition in this novel. I'm sure in the next book, and it kind of breaks my heart that it might do that. Because I really like Sebastian as a character, but I also like Finn. So, I'm really kind of scared that she's going to do something to make me hate Sebastian in the next novel. I was just like, oh God, please don't. That's just where I'm at this point. I'm kind of a little antsy, a little scared about it. But that's neither here nor there. We'll wait till we get to that book. There is a hint of a love triangle in this novel, but she doesn't follow through with it all the way in this novel, and that's something that I like, because love triangles do have a tendency to become rather cliche, and especially in young adult literature, and that's, that kind of sucks. Like, I don't mind love triangles. It's fine. They're fine. As long as, they're followed up with good characterization and a natural evolution of the character dynamics, as well as good writing and plot pacing, I'm okay with them. They're okay. However, they do have a tendency to come off as cliche I was really happy that, yes, you see 3 characters on the cover of the US cover, but it doesn't really come across in the story. It's hinted at. There is a strong attraction between Bree and Finn, but she doesn't follow through with that, and that's something I'm incredibly thankful for, honestly. I didn't want her to follow through with it. I think if she does follow through with it, then, we're at that point of, really, did you have to? Kind of thing. Sorry, pardon me. So, I like the character dynamics, and I like the relationship she has with these characters, because they do influence her growth overall. And I like that while it's hinted at that, yes, there's going to be a love triangle possibly in the future, she doesn't really go through with it now. Especially for a series, it doesn't have to be developed now. It can be developed later, and that's okay. So that's something I liked. So I'm going to go ahead and give these Hollow Vows 4 out of 5 stars. If you want to purchase the book, please remember to purchase from your local bookseller or book retailer. I will include links to bookshop.org, which will send a percentage of your proceeds to an independently owned bookstore near you. It'll also show you lists of independently owned bookstores near you if you want to go ahead and shop small. I will also include a link to Barnes & Noble. In case you want to buy from Barnes & Noble, all I ask is that you support your local booksellers versus purchasing off of Amazon. On that note, if you want to go ahead, and if you want, I hope you will continue to support me by liking this podcast, subscribing to it, and sharing it with all your book-loving friends. You can also become a supporter on Buy Me a Coffee by purchasing one of my handmade candles, or on Anchor FM, my recording platform, for just 99 cents a month. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and as always, happy reading.